In this episode, we engage sleeper mode one more time to help tune the Fairmont. Hello and welcome, I'm Grant Tommy, this is Straight Six Man, your home for offbeat hot rodding, and today, well, we are back on Project Mode Fairmont, doing a little, tiny mod. Probably won't get all the way done with it today, mostly because, well, I'm a wuss when it comes to car wiring. So, what we got on the docket today is we are going to start installing an air-fuel ratio gauge in the car, and I'm not going to tag this onto the budget because, well, this is a diagnostic tool for me. And I'm going to build it in such a way, or install it in the car in such a way that I can remove it when I sell the car and keep it for a future project for the same reason, just to monitor our air-fuel ratio on a carbureted motor. So, anyway, buddy Rob over at Jegs hooked me up with a great deal on this AEM gauge, and a really nice product, so let's unbox it and show you what's in here. Alright, so first off is, well, the gauge itself, and while I have it upside down, let me pull it out of the box here. As you can see, maybe you can't. It's just a little clamp, more or less, that goes on the back face of the gauge. So you can just, create any panel you want, and this little clamp is what keeps it compressed against the face of whatever material. But anyway, real nice, good thick plastic on the trim ring. It's not like just a good thickness, and nice white letters on a black background, and then we got a digital reader here, and then we've got a couple modes and a selection button here, so that'll be nice too. Additionally, the instruction booklet, the O2 sensor, then the other, let's see, this is gauged to car power, and we'll get into this in a little bit. And then this is the connector to the O2 sensor to the gauge. We also include a little pamphlet for some accessories, of course, your company sticker, and then a little bung to weld in for an O2 sensor. I guess that's the band, I don't know what that's for, maybe the gauge, not 100% sure. And then some crimp, like shrink connectors here. As far as the instructions go, well, I believe, if I understand what I think I understand, I only need just literally a power and a ground to the gauge itself, and then the pins that connect the O2 sensor to the gauge. I think that's all I need, and I think every other wire that is supplied in this kit is for an ECM. So if I had fuel injection, it's the way for the gauge and the O2 sensor to talk back and forth to the computer. But since I don't have a computer, I think I just need a power source and a ground. But again, like I said, I don't incredibly understand car wiring great. I've had bad results in the past, so I want to take this over to a friend's house to get his take on it and make sure I understand that right. But today we'll be installing the O2 sensor, and we'll be routing this gauge to where I want it in the car, and kind of just getting the infrastructure hooked up, and then hopefully the wiring's super simple from there. If you recall Project White Pipe, that's, well, of course, when I turned an old fuel-injected 5-liter H-pipe into a Y pipe for Project Mode Fairmont. So with that being the case, luckily somebody talked me into buying O2 sensor plugs as opposed to welding them up. And now that's the perfect opportunity here. So we are going to start, and I think we're going to route from the passenger side bung hole. Don't quote me on that. We're going to test that out because I want to show you why. Pick the passenger side because I want to mount this gauge in the glove box. And here's why. well one to kind of keep with the theme of sleeper mode. Now, not that somebody spying that you have an air fuel mixture gauge thinks you have a fast car by any stretch of the imagination, but it's one of those things that it's not like you need it all the time like you do these two, water and oil pressure. It's more of a diagnostic tool at this point, so being able to just kind of out of sight, out of mind, close it, check yourself. And the other reason is because when I sell the car, like I said, I want to remove it and keep it for myself for future usage, and I don't want to like drill holes in any of the dash because this car is so original. And honestly, I could probably cut in a hole here and mount it here, but I don't want to leave the next person with a big empty hole, or again, it just kind of bastardizes something that's super clean. So we are going to attempt to see if we have enough wire to mount a gauge in the glove box, and of course now I also need to build a gauge pod for it. Alright, so underneath the car here, looking up at the passenger side, it does look like it's the better location because the closest thing in proximity we are to is the starter, so it's fairly away from heat and things like that. Feel much safer about routing it from here than the driver's side, which is a little bit closer to the exhaust headers and things like that. So we are going to use passenger side for sure. Well, if you needed another indication of it running super rich, this plug probably tells the story. Pretty black, so I guess I could pull a plug too. I did that before. I don't know, a couple hundred miles ago. They weren't horrible. They were a little black, but they weren't horrible. Anyway, really honestly at this point I should just lean up my carb just a little bit, because I don't think that's going to be dangerous given all the things pointing towards it running rich. So I have the O2 sensor kind of zip tied into place. Had to use a condensate line to help keep it away from the headers as we go down. I don't know that you can see that super well, but maybe you can kind of figure it out. So yeah, there's not a lot of great places to zip tie the cord to, but I don't expect it to move much, and I'm guessing this stuff's rated for some decent heat. I don't know if it'll stand headers, but as long as it doesn't like just sit there and rest on it, I think there's enough slack that that's not going to be a problem. Next up, we have a grommet here for some sort of electrical pass through. So I'm going to see if I can't hunt that down from the inside and see if we can't commandeer some extra space around that to fish the other part of the O2 sensor wiring through. So I've pulled these flanges here of my glove box, kind of compressed them so it could pass through this flange back here. It's over there, but the latch mechanism is hanging it up, so looks like a 5/16 inch, and we'll take that out, and then we'll get this glove box sort of out of the way. Okay, still hung up on this tab. Also looks like we can take out these screws, and then it should just pull out off of the hinge. Then the glove box will be all the way out of the way. Well, it appears, didn't think about the heater box and blower motor and everything, but it would appear that this set of wires is the one attached to the grommet. So I think we can snake some wiring back in there, but it's gonna be tricky. That's not exactly like I can probably get my hand up and around the heater box, so I don't know. We'll give it a shot and see what maybe we're better feeding through the firewall side and seeing if we can just grab something up. We'll see. Alright, so a success. We have this guy fed through the grommet, and there it was. Enough wire that just went down under the heater box, so we'll be able to go under and up, kind of follow this orange wire here and into the glove box. There we are. We got the glove box back in. We've got the wire all fed through. You can see how much excess we have, but this is good. I'd rather coil it up in here, you know, because if we are going to use this for a project on down the road, of course, we'll want extra wire. So anyway, I just got to figure out, probably get the twisty ties that came with this, and you know, I'm actually now starting to think, instead of doing a gauge pod, like literally just letting the gauge live in here. That way, if I really want to like tune the carb, I can stretch this out, you know, outside, look at the gauge while I'm dorking around with the carb. So okay, so I will build some sort of a pod, just because the wires and the connectors that go behind, you know, it's just going to be hard to keep this thing where I want it. If I just want to do a quick check, you know, pop the glove box down, take a look over. So just need something to probably, you know, almost be like a dam for the coiled up the wires. But I'm gonna run the power cord up under the dash and get it to where I can reach the fuse panel, because I think that's where I'm going. And I think I will drill a hole in the glove box here to fish the wires through. Okay, so I actually opted to use the lid of the gauge box for my pod. I got to thinking about it. Since it is not meant to be a permanent fixture, why would I spend permanent amount of times making a nice gauge pod when, you know, I want to take this with me when I go? So we are just going to use some tape in the lid, and you know, since nobody's going to see it 99% of the time, again, why would I try harder? So I'm going to coil this up, and then we'll get this thing taped into place. I'll show you kind of where it lands. Okay, now aside from powering it up, it's in place and ready to go. So we got the extra wire coiled up. I did realize, you know, thinking about it later, like if I really did want to pull this gauge out further while I'm tuning the carb, well, I'm going to be limited by the power cord. I got plenty of slack on the O2 sensor cord, but not as much on the power cord. So best case scenario is I probably could pull it out far enough to point out the door on the transmission hump or something, but I'm not too worried about it. Anyway, pretty happy with it. Time to clean up, and then figuring out how to run power to it. But yeah,